I am so excited to show you my reading journals. Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back. I am so excited to show you my reading journals today. We are doing this Rachel Catherine style, so shout out to Rachel Catherine. I've watched her reading journal videos and they are so lovely and so well curated, so I can only hope to pay homage to her in a positive way. We are going to be going through my 2025 reading journal and showing you all the spreads, and then going through my 2026 setup. I am so excited to show you. This is my first ever flip through video, so I hope it goes well. There are gonna be a few spelling mistakes in my journals. I am human. I make these while I'm distracted, either watching TV or listening to audiobooks, so you'll follow along during the voiceover and I'll kind of explain what was going on. It's very frustrating. I've already made a mistake in my 2026 reading journal, but it is what it is. We are all human. These don't have to be perfect at all. If you don't watch any of my other content, my reading journals are more artistic with markers, but you can do absolutely whatever you want. I know if you've watched Rachel Catherine's videos, hers are more scrapbook-like. Mine don't really have any scrapbook elements besides book covers, and then this year I did some frames that she did in the past. Mine are mostly just markers because for me it's a lot less overwhelming, because in my head I just need markers and a book and I can kind of make whatever I want. All of my spreads are inspired by Pinterest, so feel free to copy anything you want. These are not my original arts. I am very inspired by everyone online. If you want to look at the original art I was inspired by, my Pinterest is always located in the description, and I have an entire board named Reading Journal Vibes or Reading Journal Inspo, one of those things. So I'm so excited to get into it with you guys, and let's do a voiceover and I'll flip through both of the books. Alrighty, we are at the flip through. We are going to start with our 2025 binder, so we'll put this one to the side for now. My 2025 binder is just this purple little binder from Amazon. I think it was $20 for a 2-pack, so absolutely very affordable if you decide to make one. On the front it has these little lines that came in the book, so I just decided to write Rachel's 2025 book journal. And then our very first page is more goals, genres, just quick little stats for anyone looking through my journal. So first I wanted to write down all my goals for the year. So I wanted to read 50 books, I wanted to get a library card, I wanted to read 5 banned books, and I wanted to read 25 books off of my physical TBR, which I did end up doing all of those, so I was obviously very excited. Also, this whole spine issue is totally my fault. It came with a page that was glued on, but it ended up being shorter than the full page because of the glue, so I ended up just tearing it off, not knowing that it would then peel all of this off, so that is totally my bad. I left it on for the new journal. This is my own mistake, so if you decide you want this book, just don't tear this one off. But all of the paper and the journal is still very functional. That was just my own mistake. Next, I decided I just wanted to track all my genres for the year. I didn't really know what to put in this little box, so I decided just to write down all my favorite genres and see if that was consistent throughout the year. Going down, I wrote down all of my socials for the year. I think it's really fun just to write them down once a year to track your progress and your growth, so that's where all my socials were at. Then my rating system, since this is a book with a lot of my book ratings, I wanted to write down kind of what all my ratings meant so that in the front of the book we have some context about all of my ratings. Going to the next page, my very first spread was my top 25 books of 2025. I did not do very good at this. As you can see, I only read 5 of 25. I didn't really know how to track which ones I'd read or not, so I kind of just put these little boxes around, which I think ended up doing pretty well because I didn't really have room on all of them to write a rating or anything. But luckily a lot of these books are at my physical TBR, so hopefully we can knock all of these off this year. But I obviously have new goals this year as well for my 2026 one. I was really proud of this one because it was my very first spread I ever did for a reading journal, and I thought it ended up being really cute. The next spread we have is my physical TBR. I decided I wanted to write down my entire physical TBR because I have so many books, and this did take a very long time to do, but I wanted a place to hold myself accountable for all of the books that I have. Oh, there's a train coming, hold on. If you can hear some background, that's either the train or my laundry, and I apologize, but I wanted a place to hold myself accountable for when I wanted to buy more books. I just had to flip to this page and be like, no, you have so many books on your physical TBR, you do not need to buy any more. But I also thought it was kind of fun to also color in the ratings. We had a lot of 4 stars, which is obviously very good, very fun. And I did decide to do this spread again this year, and that again did take a lot of time, but it is one of my most favorite spreads, and it does take a while. It's 100 hunt down the book to color in, but I think it's worth it. Then we have our reading log, just a space to kind of write down all of the books. I know a lot of people also do the author next to the book title, but in my personal opinion, I didn't really care to write the author down as well. I know all the authors. I guess you could say the same thing for just this entire spread to begin with, but I think it's fun to kind of keep track of all the books and see them all in one spot. And I also wanted to track the page numbers because sometimes I get caught up in the whole number at the end of the year, and I also want to remember all of the pages that you're reading. Some of them I have like a 600 page book over here, which is Quicksilver, and I have to remember you did read a lot. Even though some of these books are a little shorter than others, you did still read all those pages, and sometimes you could read 2,000 pages and it could be in 2 books or 5 books. So I just think it's fun to also keep track of the page numbers as well as the ratings. Flipping to the next page, my most used page because I had to update it so frequently. This I did a little differently this year because this was kind of hard to keep up with, but I decided to track my daily page count. So as you can see, there's a rainbow key system, and I think what I learned this year is that I am a binge reader, so we have a lot of dark purple, but then we also have a lot of red. So I either read nothing or read more than 100 pages, which I think is interesting, but now I'm gonna do it a little different this year because this was so hard to keep track of. I feel like half of them are just guesses because I would write a little note in my phone, but then I couldn't really remember exactly how many pages sometimes, especially with audiobooks. As you can tell on the next page, I listen to a lot of audiobooks, so it's hard to determine exactly the amount of pages that I read, so it was the best guess. So this year I did it a little differently. Over here we have our formats. I love this page. I love looking at all the different formats. I really want to get on my Kindle grind because I do have a Kindle, and when I'm reading on my Kindle, it is so convenient and I love it, but then I also just forget to use it. So I want to get back on my Kindle grind, but as you can see, I read a lot of audiobooks because during 2025 I had my internship, and that commute was anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour plus, depending on traffic. So we got through a lot of audiobooks this year, and this definitely helped me meet my reading goal. Next page. All right, then for this page, I decided to track my book of the month. So the top book I read every month. This one, as you can tell, I messed up a little bit here. I tried to do a little blue and then I ended up messing it up. So then I colored it all in and just wrote on top of it. But I also loved this spread a lot because I love the visual aspect of it, to really see all of my favorite books of the year. I think it's just really fun to do it this way. So I decided to also do this kind of format this year. It's one of my favorite pages to update as well because I just love tracking it throughout the year. Then another favorite page of mine is over here. I feel like all of them are my favorite pages at this point, but I absolutely loved the visual aspect of this one. So this was how many books I read each month, and for some months I actually ran out of space. So for all of these months, honestly, I think I read a few more books than this, but this is just all the room that I had. I know some people color in based on rating systems, but I loved the cohesive look of just tracking how many books I read. I love this page. I think I will do this page every year because it's just so fun. I really enjoyed making it. Flipping to the next one, we have our soft DNF graveyard. I don't really hard DNF books ever, so instead of the typical DNF graveyard, I decided to do a soft DNF graveyard. These are books that I got a good chunk into and then decided to put down. A few of these books I ended up coming back to, like Onyx Storm I finished, Kingdom of the Wicked I finished. So Never Say Never, these are just books that I wanted to track in some place because a lot of these books I got halfway through and I just didn't want to finish them. So they have their little memorial over here, and I just love the Halloween-esque look. And then my book bingo, it is so cute, so fun. I should have known myself better. The only one I didn't complete is the reread, and I've never reread a book, so I don't know why I put it in there. As someone who didn't start reading until adulthood, I feel like there's so many books in the world I want to read that I wouldn't spend my time rereading. Never say never, but it definitely didn't get on my agenda for 2025. I decided to leave it out of my 2026 bingo, but it was so fun to also track the other ones. It's just a fun little way to incorporate your reads, and sometimes I would purposely be like, oh, what's left on my book bingo, and then I would pick a book based on that, so it also helped me pick my TBR sometimes. It's just really fun, and I saw this type of title on Pinterest and I absolutely loved it. This was really fun to make. My next page is the A to Z challenge. I feel like most people track their A to Z challenge because it's very easy. You don't need to do any extra reading. It's just tracking the letters. And for me, I knew this was going to be challenging because my reading goal was 50 books, and as we know, the alphabet is half of that plus an extra. So I needed to read 26 different letters with a reading goal of 50 books. So I knew it was going to be challenging, and even on top of that, I decided that I didn't want to include any books that start with the or a. So as you can see, everything is a full word that starts with that letter. I'm very proud of that though, that I was able to do everything but X and Z. This made me very happy at the end of the year that I was able to fill all of this out, excluding any books with the or a. You can do whatever you want if you decide to do this. I know a lot of people include books with the and a. Totally up to you. This was just my own personal challenge. The next spread is my series tracker. This one I wish I did a bit differently. It's not my favorite spread. I decided to include series that I had started, but also series that I had on my physical TBR. So as you can see, a lot of these aren't even started. This year I decided to only include series that have been started because a lot of these, I had made this a 2-page spread, and a lot of these I've never started. They were just series that I wanted to read. And then I didn't even include any updates of the series that I had started throughout the year. This whole thing just kind of got scrapped. So this year I want to be a little better about it. I do love including the book image, but it just wasn't my favorite of the year. Then we have our Reading the Rainbow challenge. This one is just so cute and fun to make because there's no extra reading you have to do. There's nothing that you have to track. It's just what looks cute and what's the color of the rainbow. I loved making this little rainbow design. It's so fun. This year I shortened it a little bit. I made it just a 1-page spread, but I think these are so cute and fun to track. The colors of the cover, and I think it's fun to switch it up a little bit in your reading journal and track whatever you want to, and these challenges are always so fun. Then we have a spread that I really forgot about. I saw this on Pinterest and I thought it was such a good idea, especially since in 2025 Taylor Swift was still like taking over the universe. So I thought it would be fun to track different books based on the eras. But then I realized I had written in the books, so even if I wanted to put a book to the title, I didn't really know, like, do I tape it on there? Do I make a little door? And then I just ended up not tracking this at all, which I think this is a good idea if I followed through. Feel free to take it and to make it your own. I just totally forgot about it, and now it just looks cute, and it's just gonna stay like that forever. And now we have another album to add, so if you'd like to do this on your own, you also have to add the 12th album. But then next to it, my book superlatives, one of my favorite spreads. It does sit empty for most of the year, but then filling it in at the end of the year is so fun. Just random book superlatives: longest book, shortest book, most surprising, oldest book, best series, and favorite cover. Just random things that I like to assign a little reward to. I think it's just fun, and I decided to even make it bigger this year, so it'll be really fun to show you guys that. Then we have our last spread for the front of the book. We have Book of the Year bracket. It's a little messy, but Fourth Wing did end up winning. I was very proud of this little drawing because I just did it while looking at the photo reference, and that's like the best art I've ever done, so I was really proud of that. This is just fun to make. It was really hard to decide between these last 6 because The Conditions of Will was such a good book. Mate was a 6-star. Quicksilver was a 6-star. Like, all of these books were so hard. I loved them so much. So I ended up going with Fourth Wing because it was just fundamentally mind-blowing to me when I first began that series. So I decided to be the champion this year, and I'm so excited to see what 2026 brings. Then in between these pages, I left one blank in case I had any last-minute ideas. So if you're worried about finding a good idea along the way and then wishing you put it in the front, just leave a little spread open and you can always add something in. I ended up not being able to think of anything, so it's just a good break between my reviews and my beginnings, but feel free to do whatever you want. And also, it is never too late to start. I know I'm uploading this at the very end of January, and you might have already made your reading journal, or you feel like it might be too late. It is never too late. You can make these whenever you want and then just catch up on January when you start. In my 2026 journal, I haven't even started my January spreads yet. I only did the front of the book first, so you can do this whenever you want. It's never too late if you want to make one. Going into my first spread of the year, I was so proud of this. I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my reading journal. I had no kind of basis to go off of, so I decided to do some scars, and I decided that the format of my reviews would be a spread for the month and then a monthly TBR. I don't really make TBRs that I fully stick to. These are more just what's on my radar, not what I'm strictly reading for the week, or for the month, I mean. So as you can see, a lot of them will say TBD, TBD. I wanted to also do a prediction, so I predicted it to be 4 stars, 4 stars, and then if it did end up being that rating, I do a little smiley face. If it didn't, I did a little frowny face. You'll see as we go on. I was just really excited about this, so that was my first one. Then we have reviews. I just wanted to kind of highlight my reviews and have a physical media place to look back on all my books. I know all of this information is in my Goodreads and my Fable, so if you want a more in-depth review, those are on those platforms, always linked in the description. But these are just a few notes that I had about each book. I think it was really fun just to look back, and again, I think physical media is coming back with a force, so I loved just having my reviews somewhere to look back on. Going into February and my first spelling mistake, I was so bummed about this, and I knew there was an R. I was just so distracted. Again, like I said in the intro, I usually fill these out while watching a TV show, while listening to an audiobook, so I was so devastated because this was such a good idea, and then I ended up forgetting the freaking R. So this was a little bit of a bust, but if you decide to recreate it, make sure you're spelling it correctly. I have another one in September that I spelled incorrectly, so it's just so devastating. But little heart charms and my physical TBR, and then just the books on my radar. Then my reviews. So if there was any time where I didn't really read that much, I would just put a little life update to kind of show future me what I was up to that month. I was just really busy with school, and I wanted to kind of update my future self on what I was doing. And you'll see this again in March because I was still busy with school. So we have a like St. Patrick's Day theme. And then another update just saying how I was taking my state test, one of many state tests that I will have to take, and then I only got to 2 books. But anyway, it's just still fun. I love doing a little life update, even if I didn't really read that many books. I'm still documenting my reading and my life, so I think it was just fun to include that in there. April, I read a lot more books, so I had ended up doing 5 books, and I didn't want to do a second spread with just 1 book review, so I ended up just doing it on the bottom there. I thought that fit pretty good. And then we have May, some little flower themes. May, I was officially done with school, so I did 2 pages of book reviews, and then that kind of was a theme for the summer. So then we got to June, again a lot more books, so we have 2 pages of reviews if they're not sticking together. Well, technically a page and a half. And then since I did 6 books and there was still a lot of books, I didn't decide to do a life update, but I did an update on all of my books because it was the middle of the year. So I was just tracking where I was at with all the genres and my total books. Then in July we were just very busy, so I didn't get to that many books, but I love this spread. It is so cute. Love all the polka dots. We ended up having family in town though because my boyfriend's mom was with us, so she was living with us for a month, so I only got to 1 book. And then with the other page I just decided to write down all of the goals. Since July is the middle of the year, these were all of the goals I wanted to do going forward. Then was my birthday month, so I made a big birthday cake, some candles, did my reviews, more reviews. And then the big mistake. I remember distinctly I was listening to Catching Fire and I was so invested that I wrote the M twice instead of a P. So make sure that you're paying attention when you're doing your reading journals, because I thought this was very cute and I didn't even notice it until my boyfriend pointed it out, and it genuinely ruined my day. So just make sure you're paying attention when you're also trying to multitask. Then I remembered to spell it correctly for my reviews. More reviews. Again, spelled it correctly. Then October, this one was so fun because I am such a Halloween girl, so I just did all my favorite Halloween doodles. Then I did October reviews. I'm going to do this format a little differently for 2026, but I do still love this physical format of writing everything down, title, author, rating, thoughts. Also, I just realized I didn't tell you what all this was. So every month I would write down the title, the author, the rating, and then just a general thoughts, usually like a few sentences or a few statements about the book. And then I wrote when I started it, finished it, and the format that I read it. So a lot of these are audiobooks because I was in my audiobook era. And then that's kind of what I did for all of my books. I think it's really fun. And then of course I included the book cover because I love printing off the book covers. November was a little different. I decided to challenge myself on the doodle. So I did this little like plaid gingham kind of thing, and then like a Polaroid of just random fall things. More reviews. There we go. And then December, oh, it was so cute. I saw this on Pinterest as well. Decided to go for it. It turned out decent. And then I just didn't know what to do for the other side, so I did candy canes and it turned out okay. And then the last reviews of the year. I thought about doing some final pages, like some extra art and just like countdown things and statistics, but I didn't end up doing them. So I ended up just doing a final kind of few things. What an amazing reading year, 63 books, 6 genres, a 4-star average rating, and here's to another good year. And that is everything in the 2025 book. So let's switch it up and do 2026. Let's open this bad boy up. Again, at the beginning, it's the same journal, so I have the same 4 lines. I just wrote Rachel's 2026 reading journal. And then the page that I didn't rip out this year was this page. So as you can see, it's glued to the cover. So it's a little like short on this end and it's just like a little different. But I did the similar format. I did 60 books, 10 new authors, 30 read physical TBR books, and 4 self-help or nonfiction books. That is my goal for this year. Then I did, instead of up here for genres, I did videos that I want to make this year. So that's reading favorite YouTubers 5-star reads, my Freedathon, which is a readathon with Frida McFadden thrillers, then reading books, then watching the adaptations, and a 24-hour readathon or reading until I find a 5-star. So no one take my ideas. That's a little sneak peek. Then again, tracking all of my followers. And this year I decided to put both of my accounts. So if you don't know, I also have a small business. So I decided to write both accounts on there just to follow them, just to make sure that we're doing okay. And then my reading system again. Then my top 26 of 2026, I decided to do stripes, and they turned out so good. I'm so proud of them. And this year I ended up leaving a little bit of room for some ratings. So as you can see, I've already crossed one off the list, and it was the Assassin's Blade. And I'm really excited to keep up with this throughout the year. I am so proud of this. It is so fun, and it turned out so good in my opinion. Next, we did the physical TBR. I ended up doing a big book on haul. If you saw my donating books to little libraries video, which should be the last video that I uploaded, it was so fun to donate everything to the little libraries in my community. A few of these books I ended up donating, so they're crossed out in black, but then everything else is just everything on my physical TBR. There are so many books, it is so overwhelming, but it is also so fun to track at the same time. Then we have the reading log, same exact format as this year, but just in blue. Then we have the daily reading log. I decided instead of tracking the pages I read, just to track whether or not I did read that day. And then I also decided to make it a little different by adding what days I finished a book, just so that I can look throughout the year and see all of my finished books throughout the year. I thought that was a fun addition. Then we're back with the formats. I am always going to track this page because it is so fun. Then the same book of the month format as you saw. This one's a little different. I got this idea from Lottie. She did a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 challenge, and this year I decided for my 5 it was going to be 5 different genres, then 4 completed series, 4 nonfiction books, 2 new authors, and 1 classic. I really want to read Wuthering Heights and then watch the movie, so hopefully I can get to that this year. Then we have the Soft DNF graveyard again, and then our book bingo. As you know, I love book bingo, so I'm so excited to fill all of these out. I repeated some, added some new ones, so we'll see which ones I can get to this year. Then we have genres, a completely new spread that I added this year. This is just tracking all of the genres that I want to read this year. So far we've read 5 books, and most of them are fantasy, so I'm so excited to track that throughout the year. Then we have our monthly spread, same exact thing as last year, just tracking all of the books I read in our little color coordinating fonts. Then we have the A to Z reading challenge, same exact as last year, not including books with the or A, and we'll see how far we can go. Then we have our series tracker, very different from last year. I decided to do this format instead to see how I liked it. Again, I only included series that I have started. If I start more series, I'll try to fit them in this spot, but then we'll just wait till next year because I did not end up including multiple pages for this. We're just gonna start with what we have and see how many we can finish, and then next year we'll add the new ones. I think this is so fun. I'm so excited to track this and hopefully color all these in, but we'll see. Then we have a totally new stat that I copied from Rachel Catherine. This is tracking all of my monthly stats. I thought this was such a cute spread. So the number of books I've read, the number of pages, the physical books, the ebooks, audiobooks, and then any library resources, whether that be a physical book that I checked out or a Libby hold or a Hoopla hold, whatever it may be. Physical TBR books, again, spelling errors will never go away. And then any books that I bought that month. So I really want to be on top of how many books I buy every month. Since my physical TBR is so long, long. I really want to keep myself in check, and we'll track that throughout the year. Next one, we have, as I just mentioned, all of the books that I purchase, and then any books I receive. I made this section a lot smaller because I don't receive that many books because I'm a pretty small creator, but sometimes I will receive a book here and there, or obviously any gifts that I receive from friends or family I'll put in there as well. But obviously I made the section of purchases much bigger because we already have 3, so we need to calm down a little bit and make sure that all of the books I already have are getting read. Then our Read the Rainbow is a little cutesy this year, a lot smaller than last year, but I love this format so much, so I'm so excited. I honestly love this one. Like, the shape is perfect. I'm really proud of myself for that. And I decided just to do 9 instead of 10. Then we have the Hall of Fame, inspired by Rachel Catherine again. I had to print these out on my computer and cut all of them out individually. It was so painstaking, but I was listening to Throne of Glass the whole time, so it ended up being okay. You can make it a lot easier on yourself and just go to Michael's and get stickers, but my reading journal is all about just paper and markers. So if you have a printer where you can print off book photos, some markers, and a journal, that is all you need. In my head, if the reading journal isn't lazy, then I don't want to do it. So I try to make it as easy as possible on myself. But if you're someone who's really crafty and you want to do the scrapbook route, absolutely feel free. Go to Rachel Catherine's videos. You'll get a lot of inspiration. But for me, just the markers and paper is so much easier. So printed these out. I got the graphic from Canva. That's how I structure all of mine. I just put them all in Canva and then print them out. And that is how we have all of these frames. For these frames, these are all going to be 5 stars or 4.5. So anywhere between 4.5 and 5 stars will be on this page, and we'll see how many we get this year. Then we have my favorite spread of the year. We have our book awards, and they are so cute. I am so proud of this cursive. I am not someone who can naturally do cursive. I practiced 5 times before I ended up doing it in the actual book, and then I didn't know what to put in this spot because I had written all this out, and then I realized I left such a big gap that I didn't know what to put. And then I didn't know if I wanted to draw trophies or what I wanted to do, and then I saw a Pinterest board that had this, and it was just perfect because obviously the awards are inspired by the Grammys and the Oscars, so I thought this would be perfect. And then all of my superlatives and awards. So I decided to add some new ones like Best Giggles, Made the Most Tears, Best Debut, Spiciest, so we will see at the end of the year what fills all of these categories. Next one, we have a brand new spread of new releases. My first spelling mistake of the year is spelling releases incorrectly, so I'm just gonna cover that up from embarrassment. But we are tracking all of the new releases this year. I thought it'd just be fun to track all of the books because I get so much FOMO when anyone is talking about new releases. So I just decided if I can write it down, then I won't get as much FOMO. We'll see if that works, but obviously we will fill these in as the year goes on because some people don't announce their new releases until later on. So at least we left some space in some of the areas for that to be added onto. And then I decided to make an on the radar page. So in Rachel Catherine's books, she has a page for hopefuls of all the books that she hopes to get throughout the year. My take on it was any books that are on my radar to read throughout the year. So then I decided to make an on the radar page. I tried to do a radar for like ships and planes, but my boyfriend said that it looks like the center of the earth. So comment down below what you think it looks like. I was trying to make a radar that like the government uses, but I think I might have failed a little bit. So these are just the books that are on my radar that did not make my top 26 of 2026. These are books that are not on any list, but that I have and I just want to get to. Then our very last page, our book of the year. I decided to make the same bracket style, but just a little bit different. I didn't decide to do the big picture or the trophy. I just decided to make the bracket itself bigger, and then we're just gonna write the winner in at the very end and maybe put a little photo if we can fit it. But that is everything for my 2026 journal. I am so excited to share it with you guys, and back to future Rachel. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed my reading journals as much as I did. Like I said before, if you are inspired by any of the pages that I made, feel free to take inspiration. I am not the original artist. I do have that Pinterest board located down below if you want a whole board full of my ideas. Take your screenshots, whatever you need to do. Flip through this video a few times, do whatever you need. I love being creative, and I am so glad that I started this reading journal in 2025 and started a new one this year. It's such a fun way to track reading. I know I did a little bit more for this one because I just love all of the art in the front, and then I'm gonna switch it up a little bit for how I do the reviews, but honestly it's just so exciting and so fun to make. So if you enjoyed this video, please follow along. I intend to do videos updating this one as the year goes on, so if you want some more doing bookish things videos, then I will obviously upload those as the year progresses, and I just hope you guys stick around. We are so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers. We're probably like 50 to 60 away, which is obviously just exciting for anyone on the platform. It's a huge milestone, and I'd really appreciate your support in just making new friends on here. So if you guys are interested, I always post different book content. I mostly do reading vlogs, but I've been dabbling here and there in the bookish space. Follow along if you're interested, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!